Sims Walker, knocked down.
Oh my God! Davis is going running all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
In trouble. He's going to be sacked. No, gets away. He runs, gets away again, goes to the 40, gets away again.
Jackson takes it himself. Look at him dart back and forth. Oh! He broke his ankles.
I have never seen this before in my life.
Still looking. Firing. Near corner. It's caught!
Denver! Unbelievable!
And welcome to the fourth down fiasco!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fourth Down Fiasco, your go-to podcast for all things football. It feels so good to have the NFL season back in full swing. I am the surprisingly happy Cowboys fan, Jordan Pryor, and with me are the rising stars of the podcast industry, the man who's also equally as happy as I am with his team's outcome, Tanner Vinsky, and there's the Bengal boy, Danny Weber. How are y'all today? Talk to us.
Not good.
I'm doing all right.
Hey, good for you, Tanner. Good for you, Tanner. As always, we ask that you rate us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's the best way for us to grow the show. And also, be sure to check out our new sponsor, BetStamp. BetStamp has a portfolio of pretty much all the big sports books. They've got Caesars, BetMGM, DraftKings, FanDuel, Bet365, SportsZeno. I didn't even know that was a thing because your boy doesn't gamble. But you can check them out by going to signupexpert.com/fiasco because, we have a little tag at the end of the URL now. And, why not? Danny, do you know if there are any, sign up, what do you call them? Deals?
Sign up bonuses?
Sign up bonuses. There we go. See, I told y'all I don't gamble. Danny's over here like, I got you. I know exactly what that is.
Exactly. So DraftKings, if you bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets.
Ooh.
Same with FanDuel.
Ooh, big spicy. So go ahead and hop on to signupexpert.com/fiasco. We'll also have a link in the podcast episode description as we always do. So then that way you know where to go. But with that, we have quite a bit to cover. Super exciting first week of football. A lot of ugly games, but it was a shit ton of fun. Daniel, would you like to take us through the scores real fast?
All right, it's not going to be in day order because ESPN decided not to do that. Actually, no, they did. I lied. Ravens lost to the Chiefs by an inch, 27-20. Eagles dismantled the Packers behind Barkley's 3-touchdown game, 34-29. The Steelers somehow walk away with a win, 18-10 over the new Falcons with Kirk Cousins. The Bills to find a way to win against the surprisingly good Cardinals now, 34-28. The Bears offense does absolutely nothing, and they still win 24-17 against the Titans and surrender Cobra Will Levis. The Patriots, I'm just going to skip that one.
No, What happened in the Patriots game, Danny?
The Patriots somehow beat the Bengals. Well, it's not surprising if it's week 1 and 2. Zach Taylor is garbage in week 1 and 2. The Patriots beat the Bengals 16-10 behind Ramondre Stevenson. The Texans narrowly defeat the Colts 29-27. The Dolphins beat the Jaguars after Tyreek Hill's little fiasco in the morning, 2017. The Saints just absolutely pummeled the Panthers 47-10. The Giants lost to the Vikings 28-6.
I was about to say.
No, yeah. Chargers beat the Raiders 22-10. The Seahawks beat Bo Nix in his first ever start 26-20. The Cowboys in ELF hero Cavante Turpin beat the Browns 33-17. The Buccaneers beat the Commanders 37-20. The Lions win in overtime against the Puka Nacua-less Rams 26-20. The Niners stomped the Jets 32-19 on Monday night.
Excellent. And, a lot of scores, but Tanner, I believe that you had some notes. What did we learn from week 1?
So we're going to go through a couple of teams here. We're going to go through at least all the Sunday teams, just with, what can we take away from each of the matchups, since we don't want to do a deep dive into every single game and be here for 3 hours. So the Giants are dog shit.
Yep.
The Commies are cheeks.
Yep.
The Broncos, pretty bad, but kind of fun. The Panthers, they're there, and they probably shouldn't be, is the best way we can put it. The Jags are a joke. Well, they're not really a joke. I mean, they had a pretty close matchup against the Dolphins, even with Tyreek Hill getting arrested in the morning. And I still think that there was some good things to take away from that. But it was still a bad loss. They probably should have walked away with that, just with how close it got. The Falcons. The Falcons. Not much we can take away from there. I mean, just terrible offensive day. Bengals are ass, but they're always ass in the first 2 weeks of the year. Steelers are not ass. Fields was playing quarterback. That's
surprisingly
for sure.
Okay. Took care of the ball.
Did you guys see his passing chart?
I didn't look at the passing chart. No, I mean, I was at the game though, and I saw that he couldn't hit his reads.
Did you realize he didn't throw a single pass inside the middle of the field? Yeah. Every single pass is within like 10 yards from the sidelines. The entire
I don't think
he didn't throw an interception because of that. So
I don't think he can read the middle of the field is his big issue.
Or he just tried to avoid Jesse Bates and I forget who their other safety is.
But there definitely was open routes in the middle of the field.
Probably.
Like he just struggles with that. The thing with Justin Fields is he has the athleticism, and that's way better than what we've had at quarterback in the last couple of years. But we're going to get into specific matchups, so I don't want to go too far into it. Bears are going to be all right. Even if their offense is terrible, they have enough pieces around them to be good. Texans are still going to be they're going to be in the postseason. They're going to do great. Cowboys are the same old regular season merchants. The Saints aren't picking in the top 5 this year. Even if it's the Panthers, that team's still going to probably win 6 or 7 games. Vikings, Aaron Jones still got it. Even after getting pushed away from his old team, he can still run the ball. This might be the Patriots, not their breakout season, but at least Rahamdre's breakout season. He looked amazing against the Bengals. Now, is Rahamdre that good, or is the Bengals defense that bad? We'll find out. Falcons, the passing game has a long way to go. The Colts, A-Rich might be their franchise guy. Again, his passing numbers, his completion percentage looks a little ugly, but I mean, when you can throw 70-yard bombs off the flick of a wrist like that, I think you're going to be able to. You're going to win games. Cardinals are going to be competitive this year. Titans have. I mean, we talked about the Falcons having a long way to go in the passing game. The Titans just have a long way to go. Dolphins are still a top 3 passing offense. Seahawks, K9 is going to be the focal point of their offense. Raiders, Antonio Pierce is the league's worst coach. Chargers, Dobbins is him. Browns will not compete with Watson under center and cannot compete with Watson under center. And for the Buccaneers, which is the last one I got, is that Baker's the GOAT.
Baker is the GOAT.
Hey, we are the biggest pro Baker Mayfield podcast in the country.
It's in our bio.
It is.
I want to say one thing about the Saints real quick.
Okay.
So I did not know this until today. They apparently had one of the longest tenured OCs, like just sneakily. Like he just never got promoted, never got poached, and just nothing. He left this year. They signed a new guy. Their pre-snap motion percentage when he was their OC was 25%, which is like second lowest in all of the NFL.
I was going to say that's probably one spot higher than the Cowboys was.
Yes. On Sunday, 88% under the new OC.
Wow.
They were moving everybody.
That's
well,
crazy.
I mean, they have athletes down there.
Yeah.
Use them.
There was one, they had Kamara in the backfield, and they just sent him directly out. Like, he was just like 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, lined up as a wide receiver for whatever reason. And I think he got like 15 yards off that play.
Good for them. Tanner, I also wrote a couple of notes on the handful of games that you didn't do anything for. So these are the primetime games, I guess.
Yeah.
Packers, despite a loss, have potential. Saquon looks scary as hell. I want no parts of that as a Cowboys fan. Aaron out there in New York, he ain't got no legs. He ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan. He ain't got no legs. The 49ers are a bunch of liars. Dirty bastards. Lamar is still a running back. And my last note is, why the fuck did we give Kansas City Xavier Worthy?
Way to go, Buffalo.
Way to go, Buffalo. You had one job. I said one job. Make sure that Kansas City didn't get better.
No, but at least we get to see Malik Willis play for the Packers now.
Oh, God. Oh, no. Do we know how long Malik Willis is going to be playing?
3 to 6 weeks. Unless he gets benched. I
Was
saw that
the,
they were trying to sign Tannehill.
What was the exact diagnosis for Love? Do you know?
MCL sprain, like a grade 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, at least it was a sprain and not a...
Yeah, nothing got torn.
Well, yeah, they said it's not a season-ending injury, and it seems relatively mild, but it's still your knee.
You don't want to play
great.
around with that kind of stuff. So
they should go out and get Tannehill. He'd better be better than Levis.
If they get Tannehill, they're probably going to win a couple of games while Jordan Love is down. But I think if they start Malik Willis, I think they lose every week Malik Willis plays. He's just not a NFL caliber quarterback. He's terrible.
So hopefully you have Josh Jacobs on your fantasy team.
I think I do in one league, as a matter of fact. Well, cool. So I know that we had talked about each of us would pick 2 games for us to kind of dive into. I'm just curious which those 2 games were that kind of like struck y'all as interesting.
Honestly, I was going to pick the Bengals just because I was at the game, so I could see everything in person.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really have a second game yet, so Let's see what you guys pick, and then we'll decide a 6th.
Well, let it rip with the Bengals, and then we'll go round robin. I'll go next, and Jordan will go last, and we'll go back to you.
Well, so we can all talk about the Bengals game, but I'll give my opinion first. Zach Taylor does not prepare this team for the beginning of the year, and I don't know why. He is 1-10 in his career in week 1 and 2, which I feel like has to be like the worst of any coach in NFL history. Like, I'm just throwing that stat out there. But Jamar Chase, he played, quote unquote, played. He did not care. He walked his routes, no separation. He got a penalty almost multiple times because he would not get off the field. He would just walk to the sideline and stand there, and people would have to pull him off the field. Zach Moss is our number 1. So people were like, oh, Chase Brown is going to be the number 1 over Zach Moss, blah, blah, blah. No, Zach Moss is our number 1. He looked good. Chase Brown did look good, but we can settle that one now for any fantasy people. We could not stop the run whatsoever. Ramondre Stevenson, 120 yards and a touchdown. We expected run every single play. And when they didn't run, they'd throw a slant for 10 yards. That's all they did. That was the offense for the Patriots. A slant and a run. And, yeah, they won.
Yeah. And Jacoby Brissett played every bit as good as Joe Burrow in a head-to-head. Who would have thought?
Joe Burrow looked very flustered. And apparently, I didn't see this till after the game. They didn't announce it during the game or anything, but his wrist that he had surgery on was swelling during the game. But
that's good.
They said it was normal. Like for that procedure, once you start doing activities again, it will do that until it is fully healed. Even though it is fully healed, I don't know. But
I couldn't tell you. The only surgery I ever had was a wisdom teeth removal. So, and my face was swollen as shit for that.
And one other thing, We had on I think it was our last 2 drives of the game, like 2 of the most important drives. We were only down by 3 and 6 at the time. We had our punt returner in our slot spot. Our wide receiver 3 was, for whatever reason, our punt returner. Not Andre, not Andre. I don't even know how to pronounce the last name. We all call him Yoshi. Not Trent Irwin. Not the new guy from Alabama, Burton. But yeah, Charlie Jones.
Who?
Slot, exactly. He was our slot guy, and of the 2 most important drives of the game.
Nice. Well,
So yeah, it was a bad game, but it's week 1 and 2, so I expect us to lose, and then we'll win a couple games.
Yeah, you'll go on a run. Y'all are going to be fine. Y'all still make the playoffs.
It basically looked like a preseason game for the Bengals.
Fair enough.
The Bengals are going to be fine. They're going to make the playoffs. I don't, and again, this might be preemptive, and this is a little early, to spell the doom of the Bengals. But I think this team has definitely taken a step back in the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, from last year with just how bad Burrow looked playing through injury. I mean, he was 1-5 in the games he played last year or something like that.
He finished 4-4.
4-4. He was 4-4. He looked terrible in the games he lost. He looked terrible in this game. I mean, him and Chase, just if they're not connecting, if they're not on their, they're not playing the way they're supposed to play, what else really is there to be excited about with the Cincinnati Bengals? I mean, they have a bad defense, they have a bad O-line, they have a bad running game, and they have, now that Tyler Boyd's gone, and if T. Higgins is going to miss time, I mean, they have a bad receiving core outside of Chase.
I do like Yoshi. He was our wide receiver 4 last year, and he put on like 20 pounds of muscle this year, whatever. So he looks good, and he looked good on Sunday. So I'm not worried about losing Boyd that much, but if Higgins is missing time and Chase wants to be a little diva like Antonio Brown,
yeah, if he's not gonna actually try and play, I mean, the thing is there's a lot of quarterbacks who elevate the talent around them, and we've seen that through the years. And Burrow has the potential to do so, but we haven't seen that from Burrow yet. Burrow has always had a really strong supporting cast around him. He's always had a top receiving core. He's always had a great defense. I mean,
he had the best wide receiver duo in college football history.
Yeah, Sorry. He did. No, he did. Yeah. So he's always been the benefit of an extremely strong supporting cast, and he's still a great quarterback. But this is concerning. This isn't just a week 1 kind of wave away, like, Zach Taylor's bad in week 1. I mean, there was actual problems on the field that need to be addressed in the next couple of weeks, or this team's not going to make the playoffs, because the Patriots are supposed to pick top 3. This isn't losing. This isn't losing to, a non-playoff contender. This isn't losing to the Saints or the Bucks or, one of those types of calibers teams. This is losing to a team that people were saying, oh, this team's going to go 2-15, 3-14. Like, this is a really bad loss. So, yeah. Again, you don't have to hit the panic buttons yet, and you don't have to evacuate the entire building because it's week 1 and weird shit happens in week 1 all the time. But this is bad. Like, they need to pick up, and they need to actually compete to the level they're able to compete. And if they're not going to, that cupcake schedule is no longer a cupcake schedule. Then all of a sudden they're going to lose games to non-competitive teams. And if you're going to lose those games, you're not going to win your division. And if you're not going to win your division, you're not making it into the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I feel like 2 teams could come out of the North.
I think
3 could. I think if the Bengals play up to their potential, I think you could see the Bengals, Steelers, and Ravens all make the playoffs. I don't think the Browns anymore. I think, again, we were talking about how bad the Bengals were. The Browns situation is even worse.
Do you know what I think our issue is? Is we got a new stadium name, brought in new jerseys, brought in a new turf, like a new stadium field, and we didn't do what the Bears did. We kept the ugly bee. We didn't bring back like the tiger or the tiger head.
Oh, so you're being punished for a bad logo.
Yes, because we have one of the most.
Fair enough.
We have like the lamest logo in the NFL, and it's just a freaking bee. when we had one of the coolest ones.
There's always the Browns logo.
I mean, that's why the Milano Seamen suck. So
That's true.
Yeah. So that's mine. That's petition to change the logo like the Bears did this year.
But I'm going to piggyback off of what Tanner was saying real quick. Just, I think New England scoring 16, honestly, that's a little bit more than I thought that they would. But considering that y'all's defense couldn't get off the field, 16's fine, I guess. But y'all scoring 10, that's striking, because this game would have been different if the defense had a bad day. Y'all lose this game, 28-24, and everyone's like, damn, how'd you let, the Patriots score 28 points? But, for a team that your offense is supposed to carry you to the playoffs, doing that bad, not a good look.
Yeah, we did have a touchdown that was overturned. Mike Gesicki did not control the ball to the ground in the corner of the end zone. So they called it a touchdown, overturned it. And then 2 plays later, our tight end 3 or 4 was in the game, caught a slant across the middle and started celebrating at the 1-yard line and fumbled it.
I forgot about that play. That was funny.
So, yeah, we really shot ourselves in the foot with turnovers because our punt returner also fumbled the ball. And then those 2, and I think we had one other fumble. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
For it only being lost by 6, that was a pretty good after 3 turnovers.
But you had 3 turnovers, so
yeah.
Tanner, which game do you want to highlight for your first go around?
Well, I also went to an NFL game this weekend, so I'm going to highlight that one, obviously.
What were you doing, Jordan?
Being a broke boy, and I went to my friend's house and we watched the Cowboy game there.
Well, before you start, Tanner, you could go to a Carolina game. You get 2 tickets for $1.50.
Yeah, but I would have to fly to Carolina, so I might as well just buy tickets.
Wait, is it really
forever.
$1.50?
For nosebleeds, yeah.
Well, you can move. There's 100 fans in the stadium.
Yeah. Yeah, you just scope it out. First quarter's over, you just move down a couple,
Dude, it's an
sections.
NFL game. $1.50 for an NFL game?
In this economy?
The league is going to have to step in very soon because it is not a good look for the NFL.
Dude, Carolina's going to be in Salt Lake City next year.
Attending NFL teams.
They're going to be in Salt Lake next year, and everything is going to be just fine.
I mean, they can't
go
go
to Salt Lake.
Yeah, they can't go to Salt Lake because if they go to Salt Lake, then they're not going to have a whole lot of people in the stands.
Can't sell alcohol.
You're one. You can't sell. Well, I mean, you could at a sporting event, but I mean, it's a Sunday that the sport's played on, so.
Oh, you're so
right. Debuff there, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I've seen the Utah Jazz, have playoff games on a Sunday night, and I mean, they go hard for Utah.
Not in Utah.
Not in Utah? Are you sure?
Yeah, they don't schedule games on Sunday in Utah. If you look at their schedule, they always schedule their home games to be Saturdays, Thursdays, any other day besides Sunday. Because if they schedule it on a Sunday, it won't sell well.
Well, fuck it. Let's put Carolina and Portland then. I feel like they need a football team.
There you go. Okay. Regardless, though, with with the Steelers and Falcons, one, shout out city of Atlanta. Atlanta was awesome when we went there. Super beautiful. And the stadium was amazing. We got like a bunch of food. It was like $19 or something for the concessions.
The concessions are cheap.
Yeah, it was super cheap. We got like nachos for like $2. I got like a beer for like $4 or something. Like stupidly low prices. Loved it. The stadium just looked awesome. I mean, I'm not crazy about NFL domes, obviously, because we're in, we play in the cold weather, so it's like, you want to be in an open face stadium. So, but for a dome, it was pretty cool. Now, in terms of what I watched in the Steelers, it was the classic, just ugly, disgusting,
grimy
1950s ass football that the Pittsburgh Steelers love to play. Just terrible. I mean, Justin Fields couldn't see the middle of the field. He was great in the sense that, he actually has arm talent, unlike Kenny Pickett. So when George Pickens was open, holy shit, was it phenomenal. Like he was hitting George Pickens super deep down the field. The QB draws were great. There was a lot more motion in the offense. I kind of want the Steelers to stick with Justin Fields because at least then our offense has like the potential to be exciting. I think if we throw in Russell Wilson, I'm just watching Kenny Pickett again and I might blow my brains out. But the reality of it for the Pittsburgh Steelers is they have 3 players. Everybody else doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who shows up. You can have a bunch of toddlers there. As long as you have these 3 players, you have a chance. It's George Pickens, Chris Boswell, and TJ Watt. Those 3 players did everything this game. I mean, Chris Boswell kicked 6 field goals. And after the second one, I just said, fuck it, line it up from 70. He might make it. Like, he was just making everything. It wasn't even close. It was beautiful. And I love Chris Boswell. I've always thought he's super underrated as a kicker. But it was the Chris Boswell show. And TJ Watt was all over this Falcons O-line. I mean, he was in the backfield pretty much every single play. There was 2 strip fumbles that got called back from penalties because someone else on the other side of the line did something stupid that had nothing to do with him. And it's like, how is that even? It's just not fair. It's not fair that offensive tackles have to line up against TJ Watt the way he just absolutely monsters them no matter what they send at him. And George Pickens is him. I don't know. Like, he just can catch everything thrown his way. It's a disgusting brand of football. I fully expect us to lose to Denver next week. But this is just the way we don't play well on when we go west of the Mississippi. This is how it always goes. We always lose in Denver. We always lose in San Francisco. We're going to lose to Denver. People are going to be surprised. They're like, how do you beat Kirk Cousins, the Falcon, but you lose to freaking Bo Nix?
Because Bo Nix is a dog.
In the Eastern time zone, you're great. Any other time zone, you're screwed.
Terrible. And in terms of the Falcons, I think the Falcons will look better as the season goes on. I think Kirk Cousins has to move like a statue right now because he's recovering from the Achilles injury. He really can't move in the pocket at all. Joey Porter Jr. locked down what's his face, Drake London. I think he'll have a better year after this performance. And I mean, Bijan Robinson, even though he didn't get a lot of work and his stats aren't going to look great, I mean, when he broke out for runs, he broke out for runs. So I think this Falcons team is still a playoff team and they have potential. I think people just did the classic where it was like they looked at the Steelers schedule, they looked at how bad their offense was and was like, yeah, this Pittsburgh Steelers team is going to win 6 to 7 games. And it's like, no, we don't adhere to football rules. It's just not in the sense of reality that we live in. They're going to still win 9 or 10 games. And you know what? They're going to beat teams like the Falcons that are supposed to be playoff contenders and watch them lose to Denver next week. And that's just how it goes.
Fair enough.
I saw a breakdown of Kirk Cousins' stance. Throughout college and all the way up until last year, he would have an offset in his feet. His left foot would be back. On Sunday, they were perfectly aligned. And no one ever made a comment on it, like during a press conference or anything. So I wonder why his stance changed. If it has to be because of the Achilles, is he just not trusting it? Or did like the QB coach in Atlanta be like, hey, change everything you've done for the last 15 years? And I thought it was interesting, basically.
Couldn't tell you. I actually didn't catch this game. I apologize. But I do want to just real quick, because, you know, Tanner, you were talking about people who are pivotal. I do want to give, even though his stats aren't particularly great, I do want to give some flowers to Najee Harris. I do think that he's also pretty pivotal in what y'all try to do, just because he has to deal with so much bullshit, you know, because nobody from your team rushed well. But you know, he was a workhorse, 20 carries, only 3.5 yards per carry, but there also just wasn't a ton of holes for him. But I think that as the season progresses and, you know, generally speaking, offensive lines get better. Pretty much any playoff contending team, and I know that y'all don't follow the rules of football, and I agree with that, but generally speaking, teams that make the playoffs, their offensive lines get better throughout the season as long as there aren't injuries. And so I think that we'll see more and more from Najee as the year progresses. But I mean, you know, I saw him get hit a couple of times from like highlights and stuff in the backfield, and, you know, that messed up a couple of his numbers, but I'm sure that the more that the season progresses, we're going to see him break some big ones off. So I do be loving running backs, so I wanted to give him his flowers. It feels a little gross to give a Steelers player their flowers, but yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah. That was gross.
Any final comments on Pittsburgh Steelers, Atlanta Falcons?
It'll be an interesting game for the Steelers, and I'll be curious what the Falcons do next week. I don't even know who they play.
I have no idea who the Falcons play next week. Well, since
the Eagles,
they're excited to talk about the teams that you cheer for, I guess I will do the same here. Dallas Cowboys opened up a can of whoop ass on the Cleveland Browns, and I do just want to say, because I've heard it from both of you already, I've heard it from the national people, we're just going to act like the Cleveland Browns didn't make the playoffs last year. All of a sudden, Dallas whoops some ass, and people start talking about, oh, well, Cleveland's bad. No, they're not. No, they were a playoff team last year. They had a great free agency, people said. Huh?
Deshaun Watson brings this team from playoffs to bottom 5.
I wouldn't say bottom 5. That's a stretch. I think that they just didn't come prepared. Browns are going to brown for sure. Dallas went in there, took care of business, whooped some ass. Obviously the defense played phenomenally. They gave up 17. They really gave up 10. They gave up a touchdown in garbage time, where Cleveland was literally just trying anything to make it happen. Special teams look good. Shout out to my boy, Kavontae Turpin, Wroclaw Panther alumni. For those of y'all listening, we will have an episode specifically for the European League of Football and the semifinals games that you can also check out. Shameless plug. Very shameless. Very shameless plug. Something else that I do want to mention, though, that a lot of, I saw a lot of folks talking about was that the offense has room to improve, and it does. I'm not saying that it doesn't, especially the running game. But also, whenever you're up that big, something that Cowboys have had an issue with in the past is they get up big and then they start doing dumb shit and then they end up losing the game. And so it was just infuriating me seeing all these Cowboys fans that are like, why aren't we trying to, put our foot on the gas? I'm like, because we've been complaining for the past 4 years that whenever we get up big on teams, we start doing dumb shit. So now we're taking care of the ball. We're saying, hey, Brandon Aubrey, we trust your leg. Hit this 60-yarder, we'll be fine. Hit this 50-yarder, we'll be fine. Punt a couple times, it's whatever. We can trust in the defense. I thought overall, first half, I thought the offense did perfectly fine. They looked good. Dak was, for the most part, hitting some receivers. There was definitely a little bit of rust, especially on some CD targets where the timing just wasn't all that great. And, ball got away from him a little bit, but he looked great. He looked poised in the pocket. Our offensive line with the 2 rookies looked really good. I was very encouraged with them. The fact that Tyler Guyton only gave up 1 sack to Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett was insane to me. And then Cooper Beebe did his job. Didn't allow a single pressure, which for a rookie debut, very good. So I'm very encouraged on that end. And Tyler Smith looked really good as well in his second year. So, we got some big boys up front who are only going to get better as the year progresses. And, I think that as Dak has a little bit more time to actually practice with CD now that they have, money in their pockets and stuff, and that's how the NFL works, I think that their connection is going to just continue to get better. I did appreciate that there were a couple of running plays with with CD. Use his athleticism. He's so good at open space. But yeah, I feel encouraged, cautiously optimistic. I know exactly what's going to happen. We're going to go 12-5 this season and then lose in the first round of playoffs. But we will do well enough that I will be more than satisfied until basketball season starts. That's where I'm at.
I will add to what you just said. The craziest thing about this matchup is the Browns were favored. Mm-hmm. Before the game started, the Browns were favored to win. Mm-hmm. And I just don't understand what crack that the NFL sports world was consuming before the season began, where they were thinking that the Browns were going to be a playoff caliber team with Deshaun Watson under centered. And you look at Deshaun Watson go out there, and he's a fucking bottom 5 quarterback. He's about as good as Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones hasn't thrown a touchdown to his own team in fucking years. I don't understand it. Like, Deshaun Watson is awful. I mean, you can make the argument that he's a better person than he is a football player at this point. That's how bad he is at football.
Woo!
You can't win with him under center. You will not. You will not win a single game with Deshaun Watson under center. I don't care how good your defense plays. I don't care how good your receivers play. It's not going to happen with Deshaun Watson under center. And you know what? I'm going to buy the Cowboys stock while it's low, you know? I'm going to say that we're going to get it. You know what? I think there's a lot of thoughts on, we're going to see another Mahomes MVP season. We're going to see another Lamar MVP season. I think Dak is primed for an MVP season this year. He was close last year, and I think he's going to do it. And I think the Cowboys are going to win 13 games this year. Now, that's where I stop. I will buy low.
Go on, Steelers fan.
I will buy low. I will buy low. Everybody is so down on the Cowboys right now that I think they're just going to keep doing the same things they've been doing all these years, and they're going to keep beating up on teams, and they're going to punch above their weight class. Even if the Browns had a competent quarterback under center, if they had somebody who was really good, I still think the Cowboys win that game. Yeah. I think the Cowboys roster is just better than the Browns roster top to down, like from top to bottom.
Well, and the addition of Mike Zimmer, the difference in the defense between what Dan Quinn had cooking and what Mike Zimmer had cooking, and no disrespect to Dan Quinn. I appreciated DQ's time because he taught guys how to be dogs, and it had been a really long time since our defense had dogs. But, he had a very simple game plan of, I have better athletes than you. And so, Micah Parsons is going to terrorize your backfield, and my corners are going to cover well enough, long enough that if your quarterback throws a pass off balance, it's going to be a pick six with either Deron Bland or Trayvon Diggs. And that was the entire game plan. Whereas, dude, I was watching motion on defense. I can't tell you the last time I saw linebackers going across the field and watching Micah Parsons, line up like he's going to rush and then drop back into coverage. It was nuts, man. And so I think that adds a new element too. I think that this defense is going to do a lot better against the better teams, because that was always the issue was, we would beat up on these bad teams like the Giants and the Commanders in our division, and, even insert whatever other bad teams that we play throughout the year. And it'd be because, our guys that we have up front are going to be better than the guys that the opposing team had up front, and our corners can catch balls if you don't throw it perfectly. And, now as we play these better teams, I think that our defense is going to be a lot more formidable, because you can't just be like, all right, well, I know Micah Parsons is going to bull rush me downhill as quick as he can going this direction because he lined up this way. There's just so many different looks. And they said that they only tapped into about 5% of the defensive playbook. So I am very encouraged by the defense and how it looks. The one thing that I was worried about going into the game, even though they didn't have Nick Chubb, was still, Ford's a decent running back. And while Deshaun Watson, you can say what you will about his arm and his decision making, he's still a pretty darn good athlete, and he's a big body to tackle. And so, just with how bad we've been rushing wise the past couple of years, really thought that we were going to get torched in the rushing game. And dude, I got to shout out my boy DeMarvion Overshone. And I forget Hendricks' first name, but Hendricks too, number 50. Man, they was hitting folks. It was great. I haven't seen a running back get laid the fuck out in years, because we always put safeties at linebacker, and now we have real linebackers. It's a good feeling.
Also, shout out Zeke. Zeke actually looked pretty good.
Bro, he hurt. I mean, I know that they called it back, but man, that first play when he hurdled somebody, those legs look a little fresh. A little, not a lot, but a little.
He hasn't played much in the last couple of years, so might as well be a little fresh.
Yeah. He's definitely not a, 2016, 2017 Zeke. We'll never get that Zeke ever again, because if we did, we'd win a Super Bowl. But he looks like he can actually be a competent running back again. And that's all that I need. I think that he can hit, 800, 900 yards this season, maybe since it's a 17 game season, maybe hit 1,000. That would make my heart happy.
Yeah. Instead of talking about 3 more full games, do we just want to go and give some players flowers throughout the week? Since we're at 40 minutes already.
Sure. Yeah, that works.
Because there's a lot of good players that have a lot of good stuff that happened this week.
I have a player to give flowers to.
Yeah. Because I was looking, I was like, I didn't realize Baker Mayfield threw for 4 touchdowns this week.
Ooh.
He went for almost 304 touchdowns.
I didn't realize that he had 4 tuds.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Good. Okay. Yeah. Shout out the boy Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. But I also want to say Jaden Daniels, I think, is the second coming of Lamar Jackson, just not with the Ravens around him. So just a glorified running back. Yeah. 16 carries, 88 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's running back numbers.
Hey, man, sometimes the Army offense works on people, Just got to figure it out. I want to give flowers to Tyreek Hill, the cheetah. Oh, man, regardless of how you feel about the situation and the body cam footage and whether he was or wasn't being respectful, all of that bullshit aside, that brother got arrested in broad daylight in front of his fans and then proceeded to catch an 80-yard touchdown pass. And his touchdown celebration with the fake arrest was exquisite. A real
The only thing that was missing was Jalen Waddle throwing him to the ground and then arresting him.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'm sure that you could probably arrest Tyreek for missed child support. But, the whole speeding thing was a little silly.
Quite a few things, probably, actually.
But the speeding thing was
the rest of the NFL.
But, yeah, no, I want to give some flowers that direction just because once I saw the news pop up that he got arrested, I was like, oh, fantasy owners are going to be happy today.
I panicked.
Did you take him off?
No, I left him in. Because I got the notification, and when I clicked on it, the bottom text said he is expected to play.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Dude, shout out our boys in blue for making Tyreek Hill look sympathetic. Good work, guys.
I know they actually made him look like a good guy for once. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Tanner, here's some players around the league that you want to give flowers to.
I'm not going to give a shout out to any specific player right now, just because I got a little bit of thoughts about the Packers-Eagles game, and not a ton, just a little bit. I felt like I was watching the Discovery Channel when I was watching that game, because I was watching some Zebras feast. That was the most amount of flags I've seen in a game in a long time. Like, holy shit, man. Like, the poor Brazilian fans that went to that game and just flag. They were probably like, you finally get an NFL game in your stadium, and not only is your turf awful and people are slipping and sliding everywhere, but then there's flags at every fucking play. The game went on for 6 hours.
Yeah, it wasn't a good product.
There were 17 confirmed penalties. I don't know how many that were declined, but I will say, with watching the ELF, and even JJ Watt tweeted it out, fields outside of the United States aren't meant for the style of American football.
No,
They're meant
really
for
aren't.
light, quick athletes for soccer who aren't doing jump cuts or stopping and going and stopping. And so it's a different type of turf that they're playing on. And we've seen it a lot in the ELF of players slipping. You just need longer cleats. Get longer spikes like you do. It's basically a snow game. Treat it like a snow game.
Yeah.
That's my opinion for international games.
Fair enough.
Except for the London games, because they decided to put $10 billion into a stadium.
I have 2 more players to give some flowers to. First, Tyrod Taylor, who in his very limited time outplayed Aaron Rodgers, my personal opinion. looked better than Aaron, straight up. 6 of 8, 36 yards, a tud. A lot better than, the stat line for Aaron. Oh, gosh, y'all hear my dogs running around. That's crazy.
We actually do. You're fine.
Oh, good. Okay. And then the other person, which I hate that I'm giving any type of flowers to a 49ers player, but he did the damn thing. Jordan Mason, 28 carries, 147 yards on the ground. He did also have one catch only for 5 yards, but, the last minute, so to speak, news about CMC being out, he went in. It was like they never lost a beat. I know that face, Daddy. There also was controversy, which this isn't on his part. No. In a post-game interview, they were like, when did you know? And he was like, yeah, I think it was like Friday, which is like against league rules because they were showing that CMC was still an active player, which is why I said earlier that the 49ers are liars. But, that's not on him. He doesn't know any better. So, shout out Jordan Mason. He carried me, to a win in a fantasy game that I thought I was going to lose because CMC was out. So, much appreciated.
I have a player that I forgot about. Joe Alt for the Chargers shut down Max Crosby. And that was crazy to see. That guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. Max Crosby is a top 5 edge rusher in the league. And if he can just come out there, his first game ever, get him to do nothing, that guy's going to the Hall of Fame.
Did you watch the breakdown? The guy who made the breakdown of the film for Alt?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, he was talking about his leverage points and everything like that. Oh, if I find that again, I need to retweet it. But it was such a great breakdown. Joe Alt played great. I forgot about him.
Oh, I also do want to shout out or give flowers to the Vikings secondary as well. Obviously, yes, you're playing Daniel Jones, so that's, not exactly a tall task. But, with a giant or a Vikings team that's so beat up and, just going into the season with the issues with McCarthy and just all the other, stuff that they got going on with guys being out, things just look bleak for them. And man, their secondary, not only were they picking off the ball like crazy, they were hitting folks, they were shutting folks down. So big shout out, and plenty of flowers for the Vikings secondary. They did a damn good job.
Yeah.
So cool. Y'all got any more flowers to give?
I could piss you off and say Barkley. First game with a new team, we went for 3 touchdowns.
I mean, Barkley did look good. I don't blame you.
Yeah. But there's a handful more players we could talk about. But we can see what they do next week, if they deserve it or not.
There we go. That's what I like to hear. Well, cool. Thanks, everybody, for listening. For our international listeners, yes, we do have a European League of Football episode that is also out right now. So make sure to check that one out, too. You can follow us on social media. We're at _4down_pod. I'm going to close my door real quick. 4down_pod on Twitter /X and at 4down Fiasco on Instagram and TikTok. And be sure to check out BetStamp, our sponsor. So appreciate y'all. And yeah, man, good week 1. See y'all.
Good. For the most part, yeah, good week 1.
Poor Danny.
And I'm gonna keep doing them both because they make me feel good.